Hi, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, and a couple of weeks ago I did a beginning tour of my medicinal garden, my healing plants that I have, and all over the place. And the ones we forage, there's over 100 at this point. And I thought I would just share some of those with you and show you what they look like, and maybe talk just briefly about some of their actions. And that video did really well, and a lot of you said that you wanted to see more of that. So here's Medicinal Healing Garden video number 2, and we're going to start with aloe vera. Here's one of my aloe vera plants. I have several of these, and I love keeping aloe vera in my home at all times. It doesn't grow outside here where we live in North Idaho, so I just keep the plants indoors, and they grow really well indoors. It has a lot of amazing properties, and so I'm just going to spin through those really fast and just kind of share with you what they are. This is actually a really large aloe vera. This is Sherry. I've had her for many years. I actually did 2 videos on her, because and this is all new growth right here. She almost died about 1.5 years ago, and I repotted her into this pot, and her root is like 1 foot long. It's pretty amazing, and she's since come back. This is kind of just mulch that I have on top of the soil. These are begonia. I got to actually scrape some of this off, but I planted her with a bunch of begonias, and over the winter they flowered and were so pretty, so really beautiful. Here's a smaller aloe that I have, and I love this one. It's really a cute little aloe vera plant, but I've got some more begonias back here. I'm seeing if they'll root in water, so that's an experiment. I'm always doing experiments, but here's a small one, and you can see the leaves are healthy and just real fleshy, and they kind of get a yeast coating on them unless you keep them cleaned off, and I see no problem with that at all. So they're just really beautiful little plants to keep in your house. All right, so here we are outside, but let me just wrap up the aloe vera section by saying that it's amazing for skincare. Obviously, most of us know that it's super helpful for sunburns and things like that. When I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we would go out to Lake Mead every single weekend almost during the summers, and spent a lot of time out there, got lots and lots of sunburns. And aloe vera was my friend. And when I had my kids, and they grew up and were teenagers. That was so long ago. But we took them out there too. And my oldest son, when he was 15 or 16, he was too cool to wear a hat, and he didn't want to wear sunscreen, and he had really short hair. He got the worst sunburn. It was horrible. I felt so bad for him. And we got home, and he's like, "Mom, it hurts." And so I took my aloe vera. We smeared aloe vera all over his head and face, and everywhere for every hour, on the hour, for a few hours, and it was amazing. The sunburn just kind of disappeared. So it's really an incredible skin healing plant. I love using it in skin preparations that contain a great deal of alcohol, so like hand sanitizers and things like this. It's really helpful. Aloe vera is also a nice laxative. If you have trouble with constipation, just drinking some of the juice or adding some of the gel to a smoothie can be very helpful. If you cut open an aloe vera plant, you've got the gel, and then you've got this latex that forms. It's a protective mechanism of the aloe plant. It's actually a digestive upsetter. It causes gastric distress. So be careful if you are preparing aloe vera gel. I actually have an article on my website all about that with step-by-step directions, and I might even have one here on YouTube. And if I don't, I should do one because you do have to do some things to prepare your aloe vera gel correctly. One other thing about aloe vera gel is it's wonderful for oral health and for mouth rinses. It's great for canker sores too. So aloe vera is just one of those plants that is handy to have around all the time. It's easy to grow inside and out, and everybody should have 2 or 3 of them. That's my opinion. All right, so next up we're going to talk about a plant called Spilanthes. And I love growing Spilanthes. It does not do well here outside. It has to either be grown as an annual, but this coming winter I'm actually going to try to overwinter it inside, because now we have like a little sunroom area that I can Joe built it for me so I could actually overwinter more plants. Last year we were able to overwinter figs and some rose geranium and some motherwort and some other things that generally speaking might be annual type plants here, but they did really well. I even took a Russian comfrey and I kept it in there, some hops, and some other things. So it was really fun. But Spilanthes is one I'm going to try this year. Rosemary. I always overwinter my rosemary and many of my culinary herbs indoors. Some herbs you can grow indoors all year long if you know how to do it. I do have a video about rosemary you should check out if you want to grow rosemary inside. So even if you're in an apartment, you can have a very large rosemary plant. Anyway, we're not talking about rosemary. We're talking about Spilanthes. Let's take a look at it. So I have Spilanthes growing around the gardens in different places because literally I'm experimenting with them this year. This is the first time I've grown Spilanthes. So I have some in a pot. This is probably about 2 plants right here. And the pot is quite deep. And this is going to be the overwinter pot unless something happens and it's not. So these are the little flowers. Aren't they cool looking? I just think they're the neatest little flowers ever. And that's actually the part that you use in your medicinal preparations. So Spilanthes is wonderful for skin aging. It's anti-aging. It contains a chemical called transferulic acid. It's antimicrobial and has a wide range of bacterial infection fighting types. Okay, so there's a huge number of bacterial infections that it can fight off. Many of the streptococcuses, just infections. Pretty much if you have any kind of infection, Spilanthes might be a good one to try because it's such a broad use plant. It's really great for viruses, it's great for parasites, it's great for fungus. It's just pretty powerful. It has very numbing qualities, so it's excellent for oral health too, especially if you experience pain in the mouth. Any toothaches or things like this. I keep the tincture in my home apothecary at all times for different reasons, but primarily for oral health. It's one of the tinctures that we use in our mouth rinses. Another thing about Spilanthes that's good to know is that it's really helpful for thrush or candida. So if you have a child who gets thrush in the mouth, or if you get a candida type infection, a yeast infection, Spilanthes can be very helpful for that too. It's actually a pesticidal as well. So you could use it as part of your regime for fighting pests on your garden plants and your house plants if you have them too, if you want to give that a shot. Usually I turn to neem oil for that, but Spilanthes has a background and some chemicals that are really helpful for fighting off pests. All right, so now we're going to talk about wild roses. Wild roses have some wicked thorns, as you just saw. They catch like incredibly easily. And we have a number of these wild roses growing all over the property. And this is the closest one to where I was just at. So here I am. We have them growing in our chicken run and elsewhere. And we haven't pulled them out of those places because one of the things rose bushes do, and you can hear my this is the chicken coop here, but one of the things roses do is they protect birds. So we have lots of wild rose bushes on the hillside out here. So these are wild rose bushes growing on our hillside. I thought I would just pan on over to these to show you. They don't look very big from here, but they're actually very large. If you compare them to the trees on top, those trees are between 50 and 70 feet tall. These rose bushes are most likely going to be about 8 to 15 feet tall, and I'm not kidding about that. They are huge, and we had them a huge thicket growing right in this area of our yard when we first moved in, and we've since we removed them and we've planted more medicinals out there, and we're planting even more and more this year. So I'm working on getting more perennials out there. You see this apple tree? It was covered, and so was this hawthorn tree, covered with a rose thicket. So they're very large and wicked. Let's go back to the roses though. So even though rose bushes, wild roses, and you can substitute this with domestic roses too, they have some wonderful, wonderful medicinal properties. And of course, we all know they smell delightful. So I just love, love, love having them here on the property, even though they're pretty vicious. Okay, wild rose. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful plant. You can harvest the flowers in the spring and, of course, the rose hips in the fall. With this medicinal healing garden tour series I'll be doing some in the fall too. So I'll talk more about rose hips then. But for right now, we're only going to talk about rose petals, okay? So if you grow roses, domestic, cultivated, or you have wild ones like we have, here are some of the things they can do for you. So roses I just love for emotionally opening the heart. And I know this sounds a little weird when you start getting into energetics and things like this, but in herbalism, your emotional and your mental health and your spiritual health is just as important as your physical health, because it all goes together. Rose petals are wonderful for opening the heart and the emotional heart. They're also helpful for your physical heart. They are strengthening. Not as strong as hawthorn, which hawthorn and roses are in the same family, the Rosaceae family, but roses are just wonderful for both. So I love adding roses into herbal teas and tinctures that I'm using for heart health, okay? Roses are wonderful for reducing anxiety, and they are high in anthocyanins, especially the red ones. They're very helpful with nutrition, and they reduce inflammation. They're a wonderful astringent. They're helpful for skincare. You're going to find rose in a lot of skincare preparations because they're so helpful. And I'm just showing this rose because I think it's so pretty. It's beautiful. One more thing about roses is I love making hydrosols with the petals. Rose flower water or hydrosols, rose hydrosol, is one of the best things that you can spray on your skin as a lovely toner, especially for sensitive skin like I have or mature skin. All right, so that's it for the roses. I know, Mama. Hey, Charlotte. It's my chicken, Charlotte. All right, let's go on to the next one. All righty, so next up is a wonderful springtime favorite, and we've had such a cool wet spring this year that this plant is usually completely gone by now. This is what are we at? We're in the end of June. This plant usually disappears here where we're at in May, but we still have some hanging on, and I'm gathering it because I just love this. This is pineapple weed, and it's aptly called pineapple weed because it smells like pineapple. All right, so let's, I'm going to zoom in again on the pineapple weed. This is my little kitty. So you can see they're pretty small plants. They're low-growing plants, and it's on a wet year like this, they do grow high. In fact, we've had some, be up to 12 inches tall, and that's very tall for pineapple weed. But look at the leaves. The leaves are very similar to chamomile, and so are the little flower heads. The difference is that these little flower heads don't really have much of a petal. There's a little white ring around the outside. So if you're identifying pineapple weed, you can just squeeze them. And if you smell a beautiful pineapple scent, that is pineapple weed. So you're probably wondering what pineapple weed is good for. Basically, pineapple weed is good for just about every single thing that regular German chamomile is good for. And I think that is amazing that God puts the plants where you need them, right? So although I grow German chamomile and it self-seeds wonderfully, I love my wild pineapple weed in the early spring before my German chamomile comes up. So we literally, because of the pineapple weed, have months of the benefits of a chamomile plant. And pineapple weed is a cousin of German chamomile. Pineapple weed is a relaxant. It's a topical pain reliever. If you have topical pains or wounds, it's an excellent vulnerary. It helps to heal the skin more quickly. It goes to work and it just really helps the skin. It's wonderful if you have eczema or itchy skin or other, sensitive skin issues like I have. At age 58, nearly 60 at this point. I love using these wild plants on my skin. They just are so helpful. It's a mild diaphoretic, which means that it's really helpful for fever. Especially I love using it with children. So wild chamomile, you can put this in oil. You can, infuse it in oil. I would dry it a little bit first because it's a kind of a moist herb. It's wonderful in tinctures and obviously in teas, and it tastes really good. So, all right, that's pineapple weed. So here in my herb garden that we just started this year, actually it's brand new. So a lot of these plants that are in here are going to be perennials. I don't know if you can see that. It's not zooming in super well. There we go. It's very long, and we have plants planted all the way down the length of it. Different flowers, medicinal flowers, sunflowers, and then my medicinal herbs that I want to be sure that I have on hand. But here I've got Spilanthes, and you can see we're already getting little flowers in these. So I do have them in the pots, and I also have them out here. And they do you generally have that little red area on them. They look like kind of like a little eyeball. And we'll see how these do out in the garden. So I've got them in pots, I've got them in the garden. Thought I'd show you another wild rose bush. This one here is in the backside of our chicken run, and it is quite tall. I would say it's probably 7-8 feet tall. It's very huge, especially if you count that upper brush, makes it about 10 feet at least. It's growing massively, but I love having the wild roses in the chicken run because it provides a thicket for them. And that was a pheasant you just heard, if you heard that noise. And the pheasant love them, the quail love them. So we have a lot of wild birds that shelter in these wild rose thickets. This little structure here is a dust bath area. So I know this is a lot of extra information and not about medicinal plants, but we have extremely happy chickens here because they're allowed to free range. And the reason they can free range is because they have a really large chicken run. It's probably it's a good fifth of an acre, I would say, just for them. And they get to get bugs and mice, and they have a dust bath area. That's what that structure is right there. And lots of wild plants to hide in. Trees, thickets. It's a really nice chicken run for them. I know, Mama. That's Charlotte again. She's following me. Okay, let's head on to the next plant. Here I'm sitting in a portion of my kitchen garden, and this is a garden that I have been working on and changing and molding and just trying to keep some sanity with the weeds in here for the last 4 years since we've been in this property. And I'm very proud of how it looks right now. It's been a lot of hard work. Joe has put a ton of work into this little space, and I love it because this is where a lot of our kitchen herbs grow, as well as many more of our medicinals too. So the plant we're focusing on now is lemon balm, and this is really a pretty good sized little patch here, and then I've got some other patches in other places as well. One of the things I try to do when I'm herb gardening is grow plants in different areas of the place, and that's because if a patch dies or if there's a pest problem, generally the other places will survive. Okay, so that's just a little garden tip there if you want to garden for herbs and if you've got the space. But lemon balm is one of my favorite mints. So this is a member of the mint family. You can probably tell that by the leaves, and it's got the square stem, as mints do. And this is a wonderful plant to grow and to cultivate. And it's so funny because it grows wild and kind of goes crazy in certain areas. And I have a neighbor who lives on the back side of the mountain. That's the north side. And it's very dark and shadowy back there. She has it growing like crazy, and she doesn't like it. She's like, Heidi, come get this anytime you want. And I'm like, I will. Yeah, she's always pulling it out. And I'm like, no, don't pull it out. You can actually sell the leaves. But she's not interested in that. So anyway, I don't think she realizes how beautiful and helpful lemon balm is. But I love lemon balm in terms of stress, anxiety. It supports your nervous system extremely well. And one of the ways it does that is it fights off certain viruses, like any virus related to the herpes virus. So that would be like cold sores or chicken pox or genital herpes, or different herpetic problems where you've got the skin blisters. And that's because those viruses live in the nerve cells of certain shingles is another one, but they live in the nerve cells of the body, and then when you are under a lot of stress and anxiety, they just kind of explode into a big problem, and they're very painful. So cold sores on the mouth, I love using lemon balm. In fact, on my website I do have an article with a recipe for a cold sore salve that it always gets great reviews because it's a high compound in it is lemon balm and also lysine. And lysine is another really great helper for cold sores and things like that. Lemon balm doesn't stop there. Okay. Lemon balm is really great for cramping. It's helpful for menopause symptoms in terms of just the anxiety that comes with it. It's great for indigestion. It's helpful for nausea. It's also helpful for headaches. In fact, if you suffer from migraine headaches or a stress headache, I like combining lemon balm with some spearmint and some feverfew. That combination seems to just be really helpful for mitigating a headache that's coming on, or a migraine, and you can use that as a tonic, a daily tonic as well. And one other thing I love using lemon balm for is with kids. It's a very gentle herb. It's great for children. I really have had some decent success using it in combination with chamomile for children who suffer from attention deficit disorder, or ADD or ADHD. It does help to focus. It helps with brain cognition. So this is a wonderful plant for that. In addition to that, it tastes like lemon and it smells like lemon, hence the name lemon balm. And I just really love this plant. All right. And this is I should be sharing the Latin names with you guys. This is Melissa officinalis. So if you want to buy the essential oil, you're going to want to look for Melissa. It's known, the essential oil is known by Melissa. All right. This is lemon balm. All right, I hope you enjoyed this quick little medicinal healing garden tour. Today we went over 5 different medicinal herbs. We went over aloe vera, spilanthes, lemon balm. We went over wild roses and pineapple weed. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some ideas, and yeah. Come along with me for the next one. I'll try to fit more in on the next time. I know I'm probably getting too deeply into the medicinal values, but honestly, I get really excited about sharing those because I want to help people know how to use them. And if you want to know more about using herbs for medicines, and just plant medicine in general, I would love for you to join us in the Confident Herbalist tribe. It's extremely reasonably priced. There are over 50 master classes, including herbal foundations and including essential oils. So there's a ton on herbs, oils, everything. And I do a live weekly talk in there, and those have replays. So it's a great, amazing, it's really a great membership at this point. Then there's Ditch the Drugstore. If you are an absolute beginner, or if you're having trouble deciding what herbal remedies you need to have in your home apothecary, I help people customize and personalize their own family's home apothecary. And I've become very good at that. So this is not a generic course where you're just handed 15 recipes for cold and flu or things like that. No. We go deeply into all kinds of aspects of common ailments so that you can truly build a home apothecary out and not just dibble dabble around, okay? So anyhow, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. It'll be coming up in a week or two.